My name is Greg Perachuk. I'm the co-owner and designer here at Valley Outdoor Design.
And I'm Errol Perachuk, also co-owner and CFO.
And we are hardscapers.
We are hardscapers.
All right, guys, let's get started to learn a little bit more about your business, how you guys got started. Can you give us a little bit of a rundown about that?
Yeah, so I started the business back in 2017. We've been in business now for, I guess, just over 3 years at this point. But really, at the time, I was working for a landscaper locally around here. He's actually my ski coach. That's how, he hired me at the time. He specialized in water features, ponds, and hardscapes, and pretty much what I know about hardscaping, I learned through them, and then whatever else I didn't know, I just kind of taught myself along the way here. We figured a lot of it out together. But I was going to college at the time. I'd actually gotten kicked out of college at that time. I was working for that landscaper that summer. And it kind of just started where friends of mine and family of friends, were asking me, hey, you're a landscaper. Do you mind, weeding, a garden bed here or something? And I just kind of took it on really just because I just kind of needed the money at the time. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know if honestly I was going to go back to school. And so it just kind of started rolling like that. And after a couple jobs, doing a little bit of work on the weekends, it ended up being that I was making more money doing that than I was even working just, my full-time job. And I was just a laborer, wasn't anything special. But it kind of just put the idea in my head that, I could maybe I could do this on my own. At the time, I didn't have any tools. The first jobs I ever did, I think the very first job I ever did, it was just trimming this big, it had to be like a 25-foot rhododendron tree or something for a friend of mine's mom over in, town by here. And it took me 3 or 4 days, going about 4 hours every day after I got off work at 6 or 7 p.m., because I was during like the busy time, spring and summer, landscaping, as everybody knows. So I would spend probably until 9 or 7, and then I would load down. I was driving a 2002 Mercury Mountaineer, which is a great car, but I beat the thing
His
to
grandfather's
death.
car.
Yeah. I beat the thing to death, and I was shoving the thing full of rhododendron trimmings, strapping tree limbs down to the top of it, driving through,
You would just shove everything in the back of it.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you'd come rolling up in the driveway, and the thing would be stuffed.
Yeah. All tools I borrowed from my dad here.
Then I didn't dump it in the corner of our yard.
Yeah. Which we're still doing these days too.
A little differently.
Yeah, that's right. We keep saying that we're not going to do it, and then we end up being Saturday and the place is closed and we can't get rid of it, so it ends up staying here as is. But
we're lucky to have a lot of land.
Yeah, but that's kind of how it got started. From there, it just kind of kept rolling like that. Eventually, that same landscaper actually found out that I started my own company. After a month, I kind of kept it under the table because, I've got a lot of other friends who are in trades. I didn't go to a trade school or anything. I went to a regular high school and then went to college, like I said. But I'd always heard that, you don't necessarily want to tell the boss that you're moonlighting or whatever. Well, he ended up finding out and he did fire me. So I was just kind of out on my own at that point. And at that point, I think I'd been officially in business as a sole proprietorship for maybe less than a month. So I was kind of in a spot where I was looking to go back to school. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. So I kind of figured, well, I might as well make a go of it. Picked up a couple, lawns here and there. I mean, we still do lawns. We're not 100% hardscape, but it's, 70-80% of what we do here at this point. The far majority of what we do. But, it just kind of grew from there. And, the next summer, I've just, kind of continued growing it. And I've been on social media. The company's been on social media since I first began. In fact, if you go to our Instagram and you scroll all the way down, you'll actually see the very first job that I ever did, which was, like I said, it's just, trimming a rhododendron, weeding and stuff. But the next year, my dad had actually, you had gotten laid off.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I entered. Really, the way that I entered the business was as kind of a silent partner, more of an investor kind of thing. with with some equipment, mowing equipment for maintenance. Greg had a very large mowing gig that he would do once a week, and so
Oh, that's right. That's when you came in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't active in it, so more or less was kind of investing in him. Um, he kind of sprang on us when he was up at school that he he didn't want to he wanted to leave and not go back up there.
Yeah.
He was going to UMaine at the time. So yeah, so that's kind of how I slowly came into the business. And I had, as Greg said, I got laid off from my job, and honestly intended to originally. They gave me a lot of time to, kind of decide what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I bounced around for about a year at home, kind of doing nothing, getting paid, and which I was pretty fortunate. And over that course of time, things were coming to, a, I think just I don't know, a little more fruition,
Yeah.
with the company.
Well, you and Mom, they approached me. I think July. I don't even think I'd necessarily been in business a full year, but it had started picking up pretty fast. I mean, I did end up going back to college, not for the fall semester, but the spring semester, and during that time, it actually picked up enough business where I was driving, 2.5 hours home from Maine, because we're down here in Massachusetts, and working on the weekends. I work Saturday, Sunday. I drive back up probably Monday, and I did that March through May when school got out. And then by July, I was busy enough. I wasn't at that time. I was still so new in business. It's not like I had a lot of work where I was working every single day of the week, but it was definitely picking up in speed. And more I was getting calls for that sort of stuff, and a lot of it through, social media and stuff. And I think that during July that year, you and my dad and my mom approached me, just saying, we can kind of see what you're doing in the business. And honestly, even though I learned a lot of, what I know hardscape wise and design wise from a landscape company, working for them. I mean, my dad bought our house, back in like 95 or something. It sits on 7 acres. Him and my mom landscaped it to the nines. It's beautiful. They taught me pretty much everything I know about gardening, plant care, everything like that. So honestly, it kind of it almost made sense for my dad to kind of come on as my partner, because they approached me about turning into a family business, and I kind of needed the help at the time, but I wasn't necessarily able to afford to pay somebody. Still don't even I can't even necessarily do that.
Paid laborer here.
Yeah, paid labor.
Paid labor. I don't
know. But that's kind of how it started. So yeah, my dad came in as my business partner. It wasn't official until I think about a year. So
yeah, we let it go for a while.
Yeah.
And I started working with him on some jobs, and really just more and more regularly. Yeah. But we kind of felt that between the three of us, Greg, myself, and his mom, that we thought it would be a good way to move forward with his future, really.
Well, it wasn't just necessarily my future, but I mean, you were looking to retire, and it wasn't even necessarily retire. I mean, you were looking for another.
I'm officially retired.
Yeah, officially retired, exactly. Yeah. But he didn't. My dad didn't even. I mean, you worked in corporate America for.
I really didn't want. I decided that I didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line. And Greg needed the help, so things kind of gelled. At that point in time, the company was maturing a little bit, and it got busy enough to the point where I kept on coming into the jobs more and more, and so we decided at that point to form an LLC, and so we've been an LLC for just over a year.
Yeah. Before that, I mean, about the following fall when my dad came onto the business with us, that I kind of look at the first, I guess, full year, because it wasn't really until the following fall that my dad came into the business where we started to really try to go after work. That was really that fall was the time where we really started picking up speed. We had bought, 2 trucks. I guess we, purchased 2 trucks at the time, a mower. We started picking up more equipment, and that,
floaters,
yeah,
a
leaf loader,
lot of different things.
exactly.
Kind of a mix of, so the mix has been maintenance to kind of get him going, and it's evolved really into more of a hardscape company. And that's really, I think, the direction that we really want to go in.
Well, that's always been.
We are hardscapers.
Yeah. Well, that's always been what I wanted to do, anyways, because
Right.
Mowing lawns, and absolutely not knocking on anybody who mows lawns. We mow lawns. I mean, we mow
a lot
we
of
mow a lot of
lawns.
lawns still. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but the goal is to eventually someday get out of it, and maybe it's sooner than we think, because this year's definitely kind of taken off for us. But
I mean, it's a strategic decision for us to stay in maintenance right now, at least for the short term. Until we either get fully tired of it and dealing with people's complaints, or because we're doing a lot of work with HOAs, and the environment is difficult,
for sure.
and these are high end type of clients, and they expect a lot, so we have a we deal with a lot of different types of people,
as does anybody.
Yeah,
but
right.
obviously,
it's no different,
with the goal,
but they're all concentrated in one place.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to get into that just because it's a hardscape podcast.
Exactly. But so we're the point is, we're kind of doing that out of a cash flow necessity, really.
Yeah.
We found that, or at least at this point in our maturity, that the cash flow situation with our jobs, and some of them, we've done some smaller jobs and some very large jobs, and so it's difficult to kind of stay afloat and manage cash flow, and pay for your materials, and kind of stay alive, right? So this is a good way to balance everything out, at least for now.
But I think when I first started the company too, I was always looking at the companies, even on Instagram, when I like I said, when I first got on social media, of all the cool projects, and having worked at a water feature, a water garden specialist and hardscaper. That's really what I wanted to do, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and frankly, the work just suits the two of us. I mean, my dad's always been an outdoorsman. I've never had a job that's been inside before. Everything I've ever done's been outside, so it just kind of fits. And so, as we've grown, that's the direction that's kind of taken us. And we've been very grateful and fortunate to have some great jobs this year, and still more to come, which is fantastic. And obviously with COVID hitting everything, we were initially thinking this year is going to be probably the hardest yet, and it has for sure. But not necessarily because of COVID necessarily causing work for us here in the Northeast to shut down. I think we did for maybe 2 weeks at the very beginning of this whole pandemic.
Very, very little, to be honest.
But quite frankly, it's had the absolute opposite effect, and we've been, just absolutely flat out work this year. And I've heard the same thing from a lot of guys around, our area here and across the country, and I'm pretty sure even up in Canada where you are as well. It's been a crazy year, but it kind of brings us up to where we are now. The two of us, working, we're kind of at the point of the business where we've, invested a lot into equipment, and we're looking to probably start hiring next year, and it's grown to a point where if my dad hadn't come into the business when he did, it would have taken me a lot longer to get there. To get to the point where we're at right now, just between investing, his own time and money into the company, and the two of us, to try to make this work for our family.
It's just pushed things along.
Yeah, for sure.
That much quicker, with two people being involved, full time, in the business, and kind of, making a lot of decisions together, and and just from a financial standpoint, I mean, that, it's one of the things I've been able to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So that's helped us out a little bit.
Because I mean, especially me coming out of college, I already had a lot of college debt. That whereas I'm 22, I don't have the financial history that my dad does, and so it really helped boost us because while I was getting a lot of the work, I couldn't necessarily get to it. So having a second person who I trust as much as my dad, obviously, to be there with me every day, working, and not, kind of knowing that something happens, we'll be able to figure out together. And then, like my dad just said, having that, kind of financial backing as well has really pushed us. It's allowed us to scale much quicker than I ever thought we could have, honestly, come to the end of, 3 years now. And honestly, we don't even, I still count us as 3 years of business. Technically it's 2. I mean, legally it's even less than that.
Legally it's just over a year.
Yeah, legally it's just over a year. But, technically.
But who's counting?
Exactly.
Except for the state.
Yeah.
Every time we send them a check, they're counting.
Yeah, exactly. But that kind of brings us up to speed on, kind of where we're at. And, it's definitely been a fun process. I mean, I did when I left college, not even when I left 3 years later, be able to work with my dad it's definitely a blessing. It's something that, I see a lot of guys, say they're actually jealous of, and it's definitely a cool experience to be able to work with family. Not that it doesn't come with its hardships either. We have plenty of arguments about, the direction to take the business, but I mean, when you're working with family,
we have arguments about everything. Let's face it. But I mean, that's part of the, synthesizing all these ideas. Distilling stuff down. It's I don't know.
At the end of the day, we're both so passionate about exactly
right.
what we do. It just kind of sometimes it spills over. And I know who is it? Kyle Dutton and his father Terry with Rockport Cut Granite on Instagram. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. I've had multiple conversations. They're a father-son team, and it's the exact same thing. It's just kind of keep talking. You talk. You go about your day, and obviously because your family already, you're already that much more comfortable working with them. So you'll probably have some arguments, but at the end of the day, it makes it that much more rewarding to stand back, and especially with hardscaping and having hardscaping and landscaping in general. But you see all the work that you've done, all the hard work you've done, and it just makes it that much more rewarding.
We haven't quite reached the pinnacle of family relationships. Yeah. I don't know if anybody out there watches Bering Sea Gold. That's Friday nights are my Gold Rush or one of those. But the Kellys, they're a crazy crew from Nome, Alaska, and all they do is argue, but they love each other, kind of thing. And we haven't quite reached that point yet.
Maybe not. I don't see us reaching that point.
Yeah, I don't think so either anytime soon.
But that's basically our kind of story. It is good entertainment. But this is basically kind of our story for the most part. It's kind of like I said, it's been crazy to see that. I was just reflecting on it the other day. It's been crazy to kind of see us grow this long. I never would have thought that we necessarily would have gotten here either this faster at all.
Right. So I mean, at this point we're we have a pretty healthy mix of residential jobs that we've done, hardscape jobs.
Well, it's been 100% residential jobs.
Well,
hardscape and landscape.
Landscape
wise. And like I said before, we're looking to put another crew on for landscape maintenance next year. But frankly, like we said, we get a lot of work done for 2 guys, out in the field. And this year I've been blessed enough to have one of my best friends work with us as we've needed the third hand quite a bit. And the hardscapes, they kind of keep coming. They keep getting bigger, more intricate. That's kind of what we're getting known for, which is exciting to see.
Definitely. And your work obviously speaks for itself. And there's so many things, so many avenues I want to go off of what you guys were just discussing there. And, it seems like everything sort of kind of fell into place And like you said, when you look back at it and see your story kind of play out, it's interesting to see where you've come, where you've gotten. But getting into that father-son relationship and how that plays out in your business, I want to dive into that a little bit right now and ask you to, what different roles do you guys play in the business? Besides, both being on site, what about the behind the scenes? Like, who takes care of the finances? Who takes care of quoting a job? Who goes out and meets the customer? Is this tag team in some sort of way? Like, let's get into some of this stuff if we could.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, me being 22, obviously, I don't have the life experience my dad does. So I'm also not a numbers guy, honestly. Just to break it down, I meet with, probably 90% of the clients.
This is my sales machine, right?
Yeah,
here.
basically. I go out,
I spent 40 years in the sales world, okay? And he could have outsold 98% of the people, and it's true, that I dealt with throughout my career. So Greg is kind of naturally gifted with sales talent. Well, you should take a bow, really, because it's true. I've been around long enough with, in that arena to understand. And so Greg is more or less the sales machine for us at this point. We kind of share the responsibility of strategy for the business.
Right.
He does the new sales, right? And so he's kind of like the hunter. I'm the gatherer. Okay.
Yeah.
So anything where we have existing accounts and I know the people, then I will in a lot of cases handle kind of continuing sales with them. Right. But on new contacts, new design work, Greg's the man for that.
Well, it kind of works out nicely where, most of the sales come through me, like my dad said, designs, all that sort of stuff. But after a while, following up with a client it'll get really difficult, especially this year. Like I was saying before, we've had so much business come in. And because we don't just do hardscaping, we do landscape maintenance, landscape management. We bid on commercial projects and such, not even just for hardscaping, but, commercial maintenance. I don't know nearly as much. And this is kind of where, my dad, having owned a property and having, learned to care for it. I mean, he's a licensed applicator in the state of Massachusetts for pesticides, fertilizers, all that sort of stuff, because we're required to do that for some of our contracts. So he really takes care of most of the irrigation, the plant health, the lawn health, anything like that. And then most of the time, if we have, existing clients, like my dad was saying, maintenance wise, they're looking for a cleanup, he'll take care of that. And then most of the hardscape and the design work comes through me. And even if I've got 3 new clients that I'm kind of juggling and the 4th one is asking about our schedule, it's nice to be able to kind of, hey, Dad, can you just, follow up with these folks and let them know where we're at? So it takes a little bit of the pressure off me in order to kind of get back to everybody on that front as well. And then, like I was saying before, because I'm still so young, one of the things I actually struggled with before my dad came in was trying to figure out how to the actual business structure. Should I be a sole proprietorship? What should I do about insurance, etc., banking? And he brought in, God knows, however many years of that knowledge into the business, where he had done it for other large corporations and was really able to take that over. And that freed me up to actually then, more pursue marketing and, the marketing side, the social media, the design, the sales, everything like that. So really it kind of splits down the middle. We both kind of share the responsibilities of, sales and communication with clients with, like I said, really, I take care more of like the design and build. He takes care more of the maintenance side. But then on the backside of the business, I'm doing, like I said, the sales, the marketing, and he's taking care of more of like the finances and
the traditional business operations.
Exactly. Yeah. Frankly, I didn't. That's probably with that the stuff that I had no idea coming into a business, would even be necessary or would be such a big hurdle to overcome. So it's worked out really well that way, where I don't have to necessarily. We still talk about it and we make decisions as a team as to what we're going to do. Like just today, we were talking in the truck, right, going over to our current job site about like the retirement plan or healthcare, which one we should pursue or something like that as like our next goal, so to speak, in business. And that's something that my dad will think about and try to plan for, but we'll talk about that as a team. But 90% of the time, I'm not necessarily dealing with that sort of day-to-day operation, basically.
So I'll get involved with a lot of different quotes, like Greg said, but they're not typically hardscape focused. Although I have done some of that with existing accounts that
Sure.
we've got now.
Well, that's also been when we're really busy too, and again,
and it's kind of an overflow type of thing. I mean, we honestly, we got a little bit swamped this year.
Not even a little. We got
a lot swamped.
This year.
Really,
it was definitely a hard summer.
It was it was pretty brutal. But really right up until about, I don't know, middle of August, I guess.
Not even. It was like beginning of September.
Yeah,
just,
maybe somewhere in that range.
Honestly.
I mean, so we haven't had much of a break, and it having the last couple of weekends off has been fantastic. I can't take that honestly. Give us a chance to come up for air a bit, but so yeah, I mean, so we kind of work together, and just through a lot of different meetings that we've had in the off season, and it's tough to say what the off season actually is for us.
Well, we didn't have one. I mean, up here, a lot of the contractors up here in the Northeast, and I mean, working in Toronto, we get snow,
Sure.
and we do snow removal as well. And honestly, right behind landscape design and build, it's probably our most profitable service. We love doing it. We're going to continue to grow that side as well. But we had, if anybody who follows us on social media, specifically on Instagram, because that's where I'm probably the most active anywhere. We took on a really large job last year. It was a lot of masonry as well as the hardscape aspect, and it took us basically through the winter. And while a lot of contractors shut down during the winter up here in the Northeast because it's so difficult, as I'm sure to kind of keep working during the winter. Luckily, we kind of gotten all of our block work up that was necessary, and we're able to erect tents and propane heaters and continue doing a stone veneer on our project over there. So it really has. We've been going nonstop. Whereas a lot of guys will either just take the winter off and just do plowing, or a lot of guys we talk to don't even do plowing. So it's definitely been interesting. And that was, I'll tell you what, that was a hard lesson learned too, because the job site we were on, it was right on the river, and good God, I've worked on the beach before. I've worked on some very breezy sites. That place was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it's a wind tunnel just funnels right through these people's backyard, and
it's just so inefficient. Seriously, but it was a hard learning lesson for us. I mean, it was definitely necessary to work through the winter in order to get that project done, because the client had added on enough work to really push it out far enough where it was just necessary to do so. But
I mean, the first day on site last year, we showed up, and they added a 65-foot stone veneer wall with steps in the middle of it. Just unplanned, and it seems like every job that we show up for, it's like, we finally got them here, and
it's been a lot, definitely.
So we show up, and they're just running at the mouth. They want more and more and more.
Yeah, 2020 has definitely been
makes it difficult to get to the next job.
Definitely,
keep pushing out.
This year's definitely been a case study for me in client management. That's for sure. It's definitely been difficult, and that's partially why we got so swamped this year as well. because, you know, clients, just like my dad was saying, kept kind of adding on. But, you know, kind of going back to what I was just saying, I mean, like, for anybody working in colder climates, I mean, if you can get paid to do the work during winter, great, do so. But
Make sure it's worth it.
Make sure it's worth it. And we learned so fast, you know, it's so inefficient, because if you think about it, we may show up. I mean, you already have shorter days. So, I mean, we may only get, you know, maybe 8 or 9 hours of sunlight here, and then you're already talking about an hour probably to get over there and then set up, and then an hour to take down, and then, you know, go home. And then as well, that particular job site was so windy that a lot of time we would come back after a weekend or something, and our, you know, temporary tent would just be blown off and on the other side of the yard, so we would have to build it back up. So definitely, like I said, hard lesson learned. But, you know,
We were covering everything up. We had special,
Yeah.
special
super
concrete
inefficient.
tops, insulated tops to put the put over the top of the veneer to keep it, you know,
Yeah.
warm. As Greg said, you know, with the masonry work, just, you know, working in cold temperatures. You know, number one, the product that you're using costs more, and I mean, the bottom line is it costs a lot more to operate in cold weather
Yeah.
if you're going to try to continue to do it. Never mind the fact that it's miserable.
Right.
You know,
It sucks.
so you really,
You're huddling up to that propane heater
Yeah,
for
I mean,
a good 6 hours.
we will, you know, we're not going to completely turn our backs on working in cold weather on hardscapes, but it would have to be the right opportunity for us, and, you know, it's got to be priced the right way.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it. And, you know, so that was a hard lesson learned,
sure.
and it just kind of dragged on, you know, but it was necessary for us to work through the winter on that. It was a large enough job. It's a gargantuan job, to be honest with you.
Yeah. For the two of us, it was definitely, you know, by far, it's still the biggest. It's probably going to be the biggest job that we've had for a long time. But it's kind of crazy to, you know, get that job so early in business. That, you know, definitely a lot of lessons learned off it in the first place. You know, it taught me a lot in about sales. You know, and not necessarily sales in terms of marketing, but just how to quote a job that size. And it just, you know, being straight up, I mean, we probably lost, you know, a good bit of money on that job as well, just because, like I said, working through a winter, not knowing the inefficiencies of doing so, and then coupled kind of with this year, because it bled through into this past summer, not being, you know, the, you know, supply chains being affected by COVID. We definitely just kind of carried it out. So a lot of different factors, you know, go into a job that size that, you know, now we know, but definitely costs us some. But, you know, take it as I kind of call like a tuition payment, so to speak. And we still got, you know, some great marketing out of it. And, you know, we're probably going to be taking that, flipping it, putting it to a magazine next year. So really can't complain at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the job that I first started following you guys around on, and it is an incredible job. Yeah, and
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Especially because around that time was also when I was thinking, like, how can I extend my season? What are other guys doing as well? So just trying to follow along and seeing what you guys were doing was really interesting, and to see you know, that job just come together was really cool to follow along with that one. And again, so many different things I want to kind of bring up here, but you talked about how this season, and I've experienced it. A lot of people in this area where I am have experienced how hectic a season it was.
Absolutely.
And how all those leads coming in, it was just, if you didn't have a proper vetting of customers, you would have been just running around and wasting so much time. What do you guys do when a customer contacts you? Like, what questions do you ask them? How do you set up that first appointment with them? Can we kind of get into that? Like, as soon as that customer contacts you, what questions are you asking them to see if they actually would fit into your business model, that you guys would actually consider taking them on as a client? And then how do you set up that first consultation?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, typically, you know, like I said, because I handle most of the sales, I guess I'll kind of spearhead this one. Yeah. You know, when a customer calls, or pretty much like eight or nine times out of 10, they actually contact us through our website, in the form on our website. And I've designed it. I handle the website ourselves. So I designed the contact form, and yeah, I pointedly ask questions on it where, how much are you looking to spend? What's your budget? What are you looking for? When are you looking for us to get on site? That sort of thing. And I mean, this entire year, honestly, not even this entire, but I mean, since last summer, it's been, if a customer wants to work with us, you're going to have to wait, a minimum of a month. A lot of cases, especially this year, it's probably been 2 or 3 months. Honestly, and I'm sure plenty of people can, plenty of guys can, relate to that. But, if it comes in on the phone, I'll obviously at least listen to the voicemail, kind of. And after this, at this point, the first, you can kind of, doing it long enough, you can kind of tell, if this person is somebody that is going to work for you. We give free consultations. I try to vet the client enough where either over the phone or, just from the initial voicemail or, contact form, that it's going to be worth my time going out. And 9 times out of 10, it pretty much is. Even if we don't get the job, there's always something to be taken away from, an interaction with a potential customer. But, just like, if they're contacting us for maintenance, like I said, that goes over to my dad. But in terms of, landscape design build, just kind of asking them how much you're looking to spend. And then
location is
location, exactly.
Criteria that we look at,
Most of the jobs it's actually been pretty nice this year. Most of our jobs have been pretty close to our shop here, which has been great. But obviously, if it's too far away, then I won't. Or if we're too busy, then luckily I've made a lot of connections with other local contractors, and not even just local, but guys just in our region that if I can refer them to somebody, I'll do so. But in terms of if they're looking to do a project with us, at that point, I've probably talked to them, vetted them enough. All the questions that I've heard all the other landscapers and hardscapers you've had on the podcast, mentioned, so to speak. So I'll go out to a consult with them, and really, let's assume that they're asking for a patio off their back in their backyard or something. When I'm talking to them, I'm really just kind of letting them, just kind of it's almost like letting the client brainstorm. I'm not interjecting too much until maybe after they've kind of rattled off a little monologue of what they're looking for. How much they're kind of willing to spend, or, I may have to kind of drag that one out of them. And budget's definitely kind of difficult to get out of clients because you don't necessarily want to offend somebody. I hear all the time that, well, you can get a budget out of anybody. Do you want to spend $500,000? They're like, oh, God, no. You don't necessarily, I feel it's a bit rude to necessarily just go down that path, even though it may sound like you're joking, or you may try to be joking. You don't necessarily want to go down that path, with a client. Like that, so I feel like it just kind of leaves a bad taste in their mouth. Because to them, you're trying to make them feel feel important, and listen to them there. But just kind of gaining what trying to feel out what their style is, and I'll pointedly ask them, what colors do they do? What colors are they more attracted to? Kind of browns and tans, beiges, reds. Because I mean, let's face it, if it's a paver, there's probably a color out there for them. Regardless of whoever it is you're using. So I kind of ask them what color it is you're looking for, what kind of style are you looking for? And a lot of times you can tell what the client's looking for just by, looking at their house. When I pull up, do they have, is there a lot of decorations out on their front porch or something, in their driveway? What does the current landscaping look like? Does it not look, maintained as much? Do they not really have the time? Do they want to kind of devote something to it? Because even though a hardscape, it's not as, it doesn't need maintenance like a lawn does. It still, will need something 3, 4, 5 years down the line as well. So kind of just taking all that into consideration, listening to the client, and then once I've kind of got an idea from them off of, how much do they want to spend, just through asking, pointed questions or using examples of our previous work, or, just telling them what you're asking for right now through what you want and need. It's probably going to be, let's just say, $20,000 or something. And if that sounds, if they're telling, if just kind of based on the reaction, if it's a little, they don't seem fazed by it, okay, I'll kind of keep going from there. And if it's an outdoor living, from there I kind of go into not trying to. I don't try to sell people designs. Frankly, if they're looking for a patio or some sort of outdoor living space, they need a design because it's not even necessarily just for their benefit; it's for our benefit. When I go through and I design and I quote a project, the design helps me to be able to more accurately get paver quantities, how much base we're going to need, anything like that. And then obviously on the client end as well, because we offer 2D and 3D modelings, or 3D renders for our clients. I've had such an overwhelming response with the 3D renderings that clients just immediately they see exactly what it's going to look like ahead of time, and it just takes all the confusion out of it. Versus if I just do a quote and take off from a design that they haven't even seen, there's probably going to be some. I can almost guarantee there's going to be some confusion. Come the actual installation of well, I thought this was going to be X amount of feet out instead of where it is, blah blah blah. So it helps to clear up confusion down the road. It helps me to be able to quote folks much more accurately, and then they already know what they're getting well before we even put a shovel in the ground. So it kind of that's how I kind of go about our sales process there. Really, I haven't had. I like it when I personally like it when customers just kind of start even ask me questions, because I've got no problem being open with somebody, just telling them this is I mean I'm a geek when it comes to this kind of stuff. I could rattle off technical specs for hours. So if they want to know how much base we're putting down, I've got no problem doing that. And at the end of the day, it just kind of makes the customer feel more assured. And really, I want to leave that first consultation with a design, with the customer paying for a design, because I do charge for designs. It depends on if they want a 2D or 3D, etc. And them feeling assured that they've made the right choice in contacting us, basically.
Now, from that initial meeting, where do you take that design from there? How do you land that job after presenting that design? And what are some payment plans that you guys do with your customers? Specifically, I'm kind of interested about that winter job. What did you guys do about the payment terms on that winter job? Was there installs in terms of that, or how did you manage your cash flow during that time?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the payment plan. So that was actually one of the lessons we took from it. How I initially did, I forget where I heard it before. How I initially started off last year was it was 40% upfront in terms of do a contract signing, and then the next 40% at what was it? Just a halfway point, and then the final 20% due upon completion of the project. That large project that we're talking about, that was, it was a large enough job where the payments of each were very big, but at that point, because it's also such a large job, that first payment, we didn't even see any of it, because a lot of it either went towards tools to make our lives easier to build that project, or it was already spoken for in terms of materials, because a lot of that job was so custom. Materials had to be ordered well ahead of time. You either need to be shipped overseas. Blah,
Materials
blah, blah.
were very expensive.
Materials were very expensive. So that first payment we didn't even really see anything of, and so it made it difficult getting to that second progress payment. Halfway through the project, when we're talking about 4 or 5 months between payments there. Even though they're large, we're kind of falling back on smaller other projects, maintenance, in order to kind of help pay, ourselves, keep ourselves afloat.
Don't forget change orders.
Change orders, yeah. And change orders, how I've always done change orders as well. It's just payment up front, the whole 100%. I don't break that out. I did once this year, actually. I'm not going to say never, but that was for a client that has actually become a good friend of ours, and I was comfortable doing that with. But 9 times out of 10, it's just 100% upfront. But that was kind of a hard lesson learned from that job with, really cash flow. So what I ended up doing this year is any project that is under $20,000, it's a third upfront, a third first day we show up on site to begin work, and then a third final day of completion of that project. And then any project that's above $20,000, it's 25% due at signing of the contract, 25% when we show up on site, 25% halfway through, and then the final 25% upon completion. And I've been debating about that too. I may end up still changing that, but that's at least what we're kind of working with for now. What was the other part of your
question? It's kind of a work in progress as far as payments are concerned, and so that first payment is basically there to reserve our time on our schedule.
Yeah, they're basically that's because I've had clients where they've canceled with us in the past due to whatever circumstances. This year it was because they signed on with us and for whatever reason they thought we could get there sooner, and then they say, well, I want to go with somebody else. Well, that was a lesson actually from last year too, where if a client signs on with us for a contract, they lose that deposit because you're buying time in our schedule. And if, they're asking for that money back, that kind of puts us in a bind because now it's not even necessarily so much about the money. It's really, again, it's about the schedule where I'm not taking that money and necessarily putting it towards materials that other job was just talking about. It had to, because at that point it was such a large job. I don't have $45,000 to go spending on custom bluestone or anything like that. But really it's to reserve the time. And I've at this point, I've been able to kind of communicate to clients that if you sign up with us, you lose your deposit. And even if for whatever reason we never had it happen, I'm sure at some point in our, history of doing business in the future, if a client, just cancels the project, then at that point it's, whatever materials are on site that are not installed, those are property of ours. And then whatever payments you've made to us at that point, those are also, they lose the right to that as well.
Right. So, it's partly trying to protect ourselves because, there are obviously nefarious types out there that you'll deal with that, will take advantage of you. And obviously it's they're to protect them as well,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of a give and take on that. But, that's something where we've kind of worked hand in hand, Greg from the direct sales standpoint to the contract changes that we found necessary, and warranty changes, and what we will provide to a customer and so forth. That type of thing. All of it, it really has to work together. Because of obviously if it doesn't, then we could be in legal trouble too.
Yeah,
and we want to avoid that, obviously.
So coming to that and talking about how a customer has changed contractors that they want to go with in the past, I want to get into some horror stories because these stories really help us as contractors. The more we can kind of share things that have gone wrong, whether it's on the job site, whether it's dealing with a customer, whatever it may entail, it's a great, cautionary tale to let other contractors know. Maybe you can put some systems in place to protect yourself against this. But do you guys have a number one horror story that you would want to share with our audience, with us?
Yeah, actually, we were actually discussing this just earlier, because really we've been fortunate in that we haven't had, anything crazy, fingers crossed. We did have one issue this year with a prior customer who, again, because we've been so busy this year, we put, we've previously put a 5-year warranty on all of our hardscapes, and for the clients that who we've built for before, and that's what I sold them on, is a 5-year warranty. And we still honor that. But this client, we built a project for them, in the past, and this year there was a little bit of settling, and I think it was literally 2 or 3 pavers, and then one of the there was a crack coming through the fire pit that we built from last year. We think it was, I think it was due to, just having huge bonfires in it that it really wasn't designed for. But basically he told us about it, and I told him, over a call, and I left a voicemail to him as well, just saying, not a problem. We'll take care of it. Just letting you know, we're really busy right now. It's gonna be a while until I can get out to you guys and do warranty. Because for us, especially when in the middle of the season, at this point, I think this was around June or July, that area. Um, you're right in the middle, in the thick of the season, and it's hard to try to take the time. Even on a weekends, we worked straight through weekends most of the summer and this season so far, to get out to them. He wasn't too happy about that, and so basically, he ended up threatening to sue over us not coming out to do the work. He thought that we were just trying to blow him off when it was far from it. We were just, we were swamped with too much work. And so we hadn't been able to get out to the guy. And I'll definitely take some blame for that, because of it. I wasn't able to communicate with the guy nearly as much as I would have liked to. But, at the same time, that was something that kind of woke us up to the fact that, while, if the project that, if we need to do warranty work on it, I've got no problem going back and, fixing anything that, maybe, may be wrong with the project, because that's our reputation. Yeah, we stand behind our work as any good contractor would, because you care about your reputation and you care about the client. You don't want to saddle somebody with a problem or something. I would hate to leave somebody with that. That's just not our personality anyways. It's not our character. He took it the opposite way, threatened to sue if we didn't get it done by, I think, like a week from then or something.
Yeah,
so
he also threatened to contact other clients.
Yeah. So, which was interesting because that was the first time, obviously, I keep saying it, but I'm very involved with social media, and people, it's kind of the double-edged sword, the double-edged blade of social media. While clients can see what you're doing on other people's projects, prior clients can also see what you're doing on people's projects. So they threaten to reach out to current customers, which obviously I don't want that happening, because even the clients at the time we had been working for had full trust in us, but you don't want to drag something like that into their lives. So obviously, it ended up working out fine here, where we, moved our schedule around, got it done. It hasn't been an issue, so far, thank God, fingers crossed. But that warranty, and we've since gone back and we've actually changed it from a 5 to a 3-year warranty. And even if it's a 3-year warranty, I mean, honestly, if it's a client that, if it's something wrong like 6 years down the road, we'll go back and fix it. It's just there to to help new customers, feel rest assured, about doing business with us. But it really just kind of look at the warranty and specify our terms and conditions, and really make sure that we're not going to get taken for a ride by a customer like that. Because it was a shame, because he, at that point, I mean, he had talked to us. We had considered him one of our best clients at that point. So it was a shame, the situation to go like that. But sometimes it just is what it is. You can't necessarily control people.
All right, but I guess that the lesson to be learned out of that, for anybody out there that could be coming behind us, in our shoes, a small company, kind of, needing the work, and that being a young company that needs work, that will kind of hang their hat on somebody. Be very careful, with clients, and I say, so if I look back at this one particular gentleman, we were contacted by him originally for snow removal, and we reached back out. We had an issue at the time with our email server, and reached back out when things came up, and we finally saw his messages, and I kind of offered him some incentives to to go with us. And needless to say, that first year was a little lag. He had already found somebody else, but he asked whether or not we did hardscape work and and other maintenance work on his property. And so that was kind of how we got involved with this guy. But he's a very shrewd businessman.
We could go down the rabbit hole necessarily with this guy.
We really could.
Looking back at the time, being, kind of naive about it, honestly, it's the only way to word it. I should have. There were plenty of red flags. The guy, red flags. He changed the project around a lot. Really kind of put me in a corner where I wasn't as comfortable in the sales process yet. So it's definitely some responsibility on my part there too. But
Greg was still a sole proprietor of the company at the time, and he took advantage of somebody young and in a needed a position that needed work. Okay, and so that was a learning experience as well.
Yeah,
but make sure that you have people. Make sure they're signing contracts. Don't do any work.
Yeah,
without having somebody sign a contract. I don't care what it's for. Mowing their lawn. Whatever the case may be, whatever the service is, make sure that you have a signed contract, that it's really been gone through, and we're kind of in the process of, fine tuning all of that within our company and contacting an attorney to make sure that we get everything buttoned down, as much as possible. But through all of these learning experiences that we've had on the hardscape, and some of these, not necessarily bad experiences, horror stories, but experiences where you're walking away learning. Everything we learn from, right? And we kind of have a little bit of I myself have a file going, right, on Google Drive that when something happens, I put it in there, and then we revisit that, So make sure that you got all the contracts and warranties buttoned down as tight as possible. Don't give anybody any freedom to take advantage of you.
Yeah. I guess it just kind of comes down to make sure your warranty is, just be as specific as possible with your contracts and warranties.
Because you're bound to get somebody eventually that's going to take advantage of ambiguous language or lack of detail, that you didn't think that, because you're a person of good character, that you're assuming everybody else that you're dealing with is too. And it's not always going to be the case, unfortunately.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, contracts should always be revisited, and I'm sure you guys are always added things to your contract. And like you said, visiting an attorney that can take a look at your contract and look it over. And it can be extremely difficult when you're starting out, especially as a sole proprietor, to find the money to be able to send over to an attorney. And that's when you're most vulnerable in those situations.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. And getting into the installation side of things, or the different, I guess, strands of income in your business. But when it comes to hardscaping installation, do you guys have a specific installation method that you like, whether or even product that you like installing? Because you guys are doing veneer, you guys are doing fireplaces, pavers, interlock. What are the things that you guys like to stick to in the business? What are the things that you want to move forward, do more of? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right off the bat, so just in terms of veneer, the fireplace that we did last year, and then we actually have a gas fire pit coming up. We built the wood box, the fireplace, and this gas fire pit. It's all out of concrete form, so they're pre-made at a factory. They come on a pallet, multiple pieces. You basically put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. The one we use, I believe, is Stone Age Manufacturing. It had a great experience with them. We actually had, I'm not going to try to make this sound like an ad, but we had a couple pieces that cracked and they replaced them. So they were really great to work with.
Yeah, it's an excellent product.
Yeah. But that really made, when you're talking about, a custom job like that, where you're either talking about, complete block work from the ground up, you have to, figure out the whole system straight through. This simplifies it down. Really, all you have to do is kind of add on, it gives you the form. all we needed to do was veneer it, put on your sills, anything like that, caps, and it really made the process that much easier.
Yeah, the modular,
Yeah, exactly.
box type of system is fantastic. I mean, without that, the process would be so long. But I mean, things like with paver installs, we prefer open graded base.
Yeah. We pretty much use exclusively open graded base at this point, unless obviously we come to a situation where it's a valley or something where you just need dense graded. We only use open graded at this point. It's just a local contractor, a friend of mine, Luke Fougier, who owns Fougier Landscaping. He turned me onto that about, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it's really been the only way to go. I know so many other guys, he was in the industry, guys who've been on here, Andy, Jeremy, Caleb.
No issues with rain.
It's been fantastic. Just working for my previous company, if we were in a case where it rained, we weren't able to lay down, we weren't able to do anything, with pavers. More than likely, we'd probably have to go either to a new site or just figure something else out for that day, or we'd maybe just be out of work altogether. So the open graded base has definitely been a huge one for us. And then we did end up doing a job this year as well. It was less than 300 square feet, but it was a gator based job. That was the first. That's the first and only one we've done. But frankly, I've been impressed with it enough where we're gonna pretty much anything under 500 square feet. It's just gonna start going on gator base. It's such an efficient system where you can just throw pavers down, kind of do whatever.
And
you
anything
want
that's access challenged.
yeah.
This place, I mean, there was one. They put up a new fence. Greg hadn't been over at this customer's house in a while, and they had a new vinyl fence put up. So we were really access challenged.
Yeah, tight, urban city environment. So that worked out great.
Great.
It hasn't gone through a winter yet, so I'm still waiting to kind of see how that goes. But that's also the reason why we give a warranty, and I'm not necessarily afraid to use a new product like that, since we give a warranty on it. And it definitely saved that probably turned what might have been a 5-day install into a 3-day install. It saved a lot of time and heartache.
Yeah, we were able to bang the thing out really quick.
Yeah, get
it done for this family in time for the 4th of July holiday weekend, which made them ecstatic. I mean, they had, this woman had a rug stowed away for like a year in their basement that she bought just to put out on the patio. And she was so happy to put that out there with, tables and chairs. They sent us pictures. They put out this giant, outdoor screen with a projector, and they've really, they're living outdoors here. I mean, it's awesome. And it only took us 3 days to put in. They were super happy with that install.
Yeah. So, I mean, needless to say, I'm definitely, we're going to be using gator base and, going forward. I was definitely impressed with the product there for sure. Beyond that, just building everything to ICPI and NCMA standards, honestly. Just kind of going along and trying to keep up with the latest technology that the industry has to offer. And, that's really about it. Those are like the three to us, and obviously,
concrete edge restraints.
Well, the concrete edge, but, a lot of people do the concrete edge. We haven't, I know that, this is that company Perma Edge. We haven't gotten a chance to use them yet. 9 times out of 10, we just buy back concrete, mix fibers into it or something like that. Which has been great. That's been a lot better than using, just what's it called, regular like plastic edge restraints as well. But yeah, I can't think anything else beyond that. Like I said, just building it to ICPI and NCMA standards, you're going to be solid.
Yeah, absolutely. And that gator base, I think our first project with that was a few years ago, and it does an amazing job during those winters. So you don't have anything to worry about there with those installs. It's an awesome product to be installing. And I like everything that you said there with the open graded base and getting through those rain days. It just increases productivity so much more. I love that. So what about tools and equipment in your business? Anything that you guys, stand by in your business, or anything in the near future that you're going to be, purchasing?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in terms of near future, it's probably our next large purchase is going to be either another large truck and a mini excavator. We've actually ended up renting an excavator out a lot this year, so that's probably going to be the next thing. As simple as it sounds, honestly, a full-size skid steer for us, it's not new. We bought a Cat 262, used, but the thing has been a beast. And I doing enough hardscaping. I'm friends with Rich, RC Outdoors, and he does an incredible job with the mini skid. Again, whereas we're a much more diverse company, we do a lot of services. The full-size skid for us was the way to go. But I couldn't imagine not having a full-size skid for the jobs we've done. Just kind of going forward, it's made our lives so much easier. Just having something as kind of simple as a full-size machine there to move pallets around and such.
And I'll go in the other direction, very small. Okay, we've got a grout gun that is just phenomenal. I mean, for veneer work, you can lay down a bead of grout between irregular. So the job, the large job that we did was square and rec, granite, and I mean, so we were just, if you're doing it, tuck and point method
with a grout bag, your hands are gonna hurt. Your hands are gonna hurt a lot.
It's gonna take a long time. This thing speeds it up.
Yeah,
I mean, it's orders of magnitude faster.
I believe I put a video out on our Instagram about it earlier this year, and I believe, what is it? That's the quick gun. Quick point. Oh yeah, the quick point mortar gun. Obviously that's more of like a masonry related item, but it has been.
Oh, this is hardscape.
Hardscaping, for sure.
For $350, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
This saved our lives. We had so much veneer to get it, grout into, and the speed that we could do it in. With two guys doing that, one guy following behind the other guy with the gun. I mean, it's almost hard to keep up with them.
Yeah.
It
probably turned 3 weeks worth of grouting, and veneer, detail work down into like a week.
It's a game changer. It really is.
Beyond that, anything from Pave Tool, honestly. We see Phil Baylor at all these events. He's an awesome guy. He's a great guy to just chat with too. But I mean, good God, the stuff that I'm a huge believer in anything that he makes. We've got like their quickie, their stand-up screed system, their paver carriers, their scribes, all of that stuff that he makes.
System.
The vacuum, we have their airlift vacuum system. All of that stuff.
We couldn't be without that.
Mike, everything that they make has made such a big difference. Because again, for us being two guys, and we probably get the work done of 4 or 5. It just makes our lives so much easier. I mean, it's exactly what his slogan is. Taking the heart out of hearts.
We really have, no kidding, it's true. But for two guys to do as much work as we do, we have to rely on technology,
right?
To speed the jobs along as much as possible, and just increase the productivity as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tools are hugely important.
Yeah, and honestly, actually, if I can kind of move back, honestly, to actually the installation, real quick, but I just thought about this, but I see so many hardscapers, where they just touch pavers and such, and they won't necessarily get into natural stone. And even though if you're working with flagstone, it can be a pain in the butt for sure, because you're trying to fit it together like a puzzle. But there's also some really that we've used, if you're talking like, bluestone or something, just thermal bluestone, where it's basically like a paver, except it's much bigger. And it's honestly even bigger than, some of these XL slabs that Unilocker, Teco, Belgard, they make. So if you're using natural stone, you have a lot more options for these much larger slab systems where you're going to throw them in the ground that much faster. And at the end of the day, they probably look a lot better because, frankly, nothing touches natural stone. I see a lot of guys, we're really, really fortunate here in the Northeast. We've got, it's so, like 3 or 4 pillars of materials we use up here. It's all clay brick, bluestone, granite, and pavers really, but and natural or not pavers.
Granite and fieldstone
Yeah,
everywhere.
fieldstone, exactly. It's so cool to use. I don't see a lot of people other than like maybe California and Florida using it nearly as much as I really think they should, because you can command such a much better price for it, and it just, as nice as some of these pavers are these days, I love the paver systems. At the end of the day, this stuff lasts that much longer and it looks that much better. And if you use a much larger, slab format like a paver that, this just comes bigger, you're gonna put down so much more, and it just looks fantastic. I think that's pretty much it. In terms,
just make sure it's priced correctly. That's all.
For sure.
As with everything, right? But, especially with that, because it comes along with such an increased level of effort, labor wise, that and that's really, we find that a lot of times there are some very expensive natural stone products, but then others that are really very cost competitive on the product itself. But by the time you get through with the labor, the cost is driven pretty high. Yeah. But the end result is you got to have the right customer for it, right? They have to appreciate, the labor that's involved, the process. You need to educate the customers accordingly, up front to make them understand what they're going to get in the long run. And like Greg said,
well, that's
how long it's going to last.
Well, honestly, and if we're being honest here, I tend, like I said, I love pavers as well. We install a lot of paver systems, but if, anything, if the customer has the budget for natural stone, that's the way I'm pushing them, because again, pavers just don't hold up to natural stone. It just looks amazing. And this is, whether it's a patio or if it's a wall, if we can do stone veneer versus a wall system where the wall may go up that much faster and you can get to another job, but if I can charge $55, $60, $65 a square foot for a stone veneer, I'm probably going to end up making out that much better anyways. So don't necessarily have to kind of keep diving back into that, but definitely I don't see enough people push natural stone, and I feel like get more guys should become acquaint yourself more with it, because it's just such a phenomenal product, and at the end of the day, it just looks incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, bringing this back sort of to the finance aspect of the business, and talking about tools and equipment in your business, and talking about future purchases, what makes you pull the trigger on something as small as a grout gun or something as large as a mini excavator in your business? What makes you look at your business and decide that it's the right time to make that next purchase?
Pain.
Yeah. Definitely, pain's definitely a big one for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of finance, I mean, before we purchased our skid steer, we were having to rent it out so often that we probably could have just gone out.
Right.
We should have just gone out and bought it at the time.
God. We blew a lot of money on rentals.
But luckily it's kind of fallen in place, fine. And again, another lesson taken from it. But if I'm finding ourselves, renting a piece of equipment, more often, like we have it like at least once a month, it's probably something that it's kind of going on the list of, the wish list to have. And anybody I feel like if you're a landscaper, you're really a part of any trade in general. You're a tool and kind of equipment junkie anyway. So everybody knows what the next thing coming out is. We love equipment, we love tools and such. So we always kind of have our eye on like the next thing. For us right now, it's a mini excavator and probably, a larger truck, like, Jeremy Swihart signature international trucks or something like that,
And that would be, based on the need to be able to carry more product and materials, bulk materials in one shot.
Yeah.
We purchased an F-350 dump this year, landscape body on it. So it'll, carry a lot more than what we had previously, which was a dump insert and a 3/4 ton. So, a big step up. Yeah. Right. A lot less delivery fees. a lot more flexibility in our job scheduling, a lot more at once.
Yeah.
It'll increase the productivity from the standpoint that, hey, now we can deliver 6 times as much as we could before in one shot. Showing up with our own truck when we need it there, or as little as we need. So from that standpoint, I mean, that was a good call for us to make for the dump truck. It'll also double for snow removal as well. So it's something that you need to look at, kind of a cost benefit type of decision, right? In addition to the pain that I mentioned before.
I think just long story short,
is a perfect example of that.
I think just long story short there, just how much, if I know, like for prime examples, the grout gun for $300, we can buy
it's a
that.
No-brainer.
For $300, we can buy that and get decrease a 3-week installation to a 1-week installation. If it's going to be efficient enough and we know we're going to get our money's worth for it, then we're just going to go do it. For something small like that, if it's $300, not a big deal. For something like a skid steer or a Mini X, if we're renting it out enough, it's probably just time to buy it. Pretty much that's really what it just kind of comes down to for us.
And then really, and then the other thing that I would say would be, do you have the income, the planned income,
right.
forecast, or a damn good opportunity in the hopper that you can say, okay, we can justify going out and getting something. Having a contract signed is a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
Because it decreases the amount of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, liability that we would have.
Yeah.
In trying to go finance something. We being a young company with limited capital, we've kind of operated off of my personal credit to start up the company. And I see that over time, as building our business credit, and my personal credit will be needed less and less. You're in the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So, so from that aspect, I think that, really we just need to make sure that, we can go out and get something and have a revenue stream for it.
Yeah. Basically just be able to keep it busy, really.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Really what it just comes down to.
Coming to the close of this interview, I know I've held you guys up for long enough, and you guys have kind of bared with me through this, but you guys are excellent talkers, and it's been just great to talk business with you through this. So
we like to talk, so it's no big
deal.
So wrapping this interview up, I've got 3, we'll call them lightning round questions. We'll get through them really quick here. Starting with, do you guys have any mentors in the industry, people that you follow along with, anybody that you really just want to give a shout out that you have really helped you in your business?
Yeah. This may not be lightning then. There's quite a few guys. Right off the rip, two guys who really help us out. My salesman with Landscape Depot Supply here in Mass, Mike Prey. Yeah, a lot of the jobs, his knowledge, I wouldn't be able to quote properly without them, and he's become a good friend. And then I mentioned him earlier, Luke Fougere with Fougere Landscaping. He's helped us out so much. He's, such a wealth of knowledge, because he's done this for 12, 13 years. He the two of them have been such a huge instrumental part of our business and helping us grow. I really don't think we wouldn't be where we are at this point without them. And then, just kind of even beyond them, Neil and Samantha Best with Magma Design Group out of Rhode Island. They're awesome. I'm able to hit up Neil kind of whenever I need to. Him and I kind of talk back and forth. And again, such a knowledgeable, experienced contractor. Same thing with Jake Audette with Audit Enterprises out of Portland, Maine. The dude's been around the block. I talked to him about so much.
Guy.
Yeah, really awesome dude. And then I think two guys who are kind of slept on just in social media in general. Jason Zulo with Zulo Design Build out of Long Island, and then Jared Rose with Paradise out of Florida. The two of those guys, I would honestly go so far as to say Jared, or not Jared. I'm sorry, Jared too, but Jason is probably one of the best hardscapers in this country. The guy knows what he's talking about, and he's helped me make so much money. I was just on the phone with him the last week talking about pool coping, the best way to install it. Seriously, if you guys aren't following him on anywhere, you're seriously missing out. And anybody who I just listed off, they're all fantastic guys that I've been so grateful to connect with and help us in our small company.
Got it. And best thing about working as a father-son company, and I don't want to say worst thing, but most difficult thing about working as a father-son company.
Best thing, obviously, is that we are father-son. I think it's kind of simple, but it's great to be able to go to work with your dad. Who's probably one of my best friends, and it's awesome to kind of build something for the family together. We pride ourselves on being a family-owned business, and
I think we know that it kind of goes without saying we're going to have each other's backs.
Exactly. Yeah.
We can truly trust each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's probably unique to family.
Sure. Worst thing, probably the same thing.
Let's hear it, Greg. What's the worst thing?
Yeah. Worst thing is that we are family, and that we're so comfortable around each other. We probably get into it a little more often than what we should. Just in terms of making decisions. Well, I think we should be doing X, and my dad thinks we should be doing Y or whatever. And that obviously every time we figure it out. But, again, just kind of come back to what I said earlier, you kind of get to the point where you're both so passionate about it, you can kind of get a little heated, in an argument.
Have lots
of
discussions.
Discussions.
Exactly. About the direction of the business and, short and long term,
Yeah, exactly.
How to go about things usually.
Yeah.
That it's probably the most difficult part. Aside from that, I mean, honestly, it's been a really, really great journey.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
And as we bring this interview to a close here with our final question, obviously you two have learned a lot since starting the business. So I want to ask the one thing that you wish you'd known from the very beginning when you first started the business. What is that one thing that you know now that you wish you'd known from the very start?
When you first talked to us about doing the podcast, this was one of the questions that actually kind of stood out to me because, obviously we're still young. There's so much that I wish I'd known. But definitely the one thing I wish I'd been able to kind of go back and tell myself is just how hard emotionally it's going to be. It's not even got anything to do with just being a family company or something, but anybody in business who's an entrepreneur or business owner will tell you just how hard it is to try to keep up with the stress, anxiety of risking everything and try to make a company work. And when I first started the company, when my dad came in, this is none of that I never even thought of. I joke around, I wish somebody told me how much paperwork there is or whatever. But frankly, that, just like the emotional roller coaster that running a business, is and will be, it's not even can be, but what it will be. That's probably the one thing I wish I'd known at the beginning. And, if I can make that, apparent to anybody, who's, great, I'm 22, who's, starting their company, just be prepared because, it's definitely a wild ride. And while it's an incredibly rewarding, and, rewarding ride, and you're going to grow so much of it from it as a person. And frankly, if you don't grow from it at owning a business, you're doing something wrong. That would definitely be like the one thing that I would want to, people should definitely know about. Just it's going to be a crazy emotional ride.
And you just can't walk away from it.
Yeah,
and, you're fully vested in it. It's not like, and this is more difficult for Greg as opposed to an old guy like me. that, at the end of the day, I'm ready to hit the rack and Greg's ready to go out. Okay. So, it's very difficult.
Sure. Yeah.
You just can't, there's no switch you can just shut off. You're not leaving the office, and you can't, tell the boss sayonara. I mean, you are the boss. So, and you got people chasing you just about 24 hours a day, looking for status updates. And, you have all of the typical business decisions that need to be made, and they don't stop. We're constantly at this stuff.
Yeah.
Weekends, nights, it's, and so, like I said, with a young guy that expects to have any kind of a personal life, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's over.
His
His buddies, who work in the trades and have other kinds of jobs, they can just, they're free to come and go on trips and, go snowmobiling and bike trips and things like that. And Greg, unfortunately,
well, I wouldn't say unfortunately. It's a blessing, and
I think in the short term, it makes it different.
You choose to do this, and I'm definitely not going to say I regret that, but it's definitely, and I know there's a lot of younger guys who get into this. I follow a lot of them as well.
Just
on
be
Instagram.
warned. That's all.
You're not going to have much of a social life, and that could be hard. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it. It's all worth it, absolutely. But you're not going to have much of a social life, at least for the first few years.
Definitely. Well, guys, it's been a real pleasure to speak with the two of you. Thank you so much for your time. We've gone well over, but I feel like I've just scratched the surface with the two of you. I feel like there's just so much more that we could get into, and we'll have to have you back, whether it's for a roundtable chat with other hardscapers or whatever it may be. It would be a great pleasure to have you back. But for now, where can our audience find out more about the two of you, the work that you're doing?
Sure. So obviously, like we said multiple times at this point, we're pretty much everywhere on social media. Probably the place where we're most active is on Instagram. Just Instagram at Valley Outdoor Design will pop up, and then same thing on Facebook. And if you guys want to check out our website, it's just valleyoutdoordesign.com.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you as well.
Thank you so much, Mike. Really looking forward to the next time as well.
Yeah, absolutely.